What's up guys, it's JT Traveler, and today we're going to be taking a look at the OM-3 by OM Systems. We're going to be going over the buttons and the dials and the menu. Alrighty, so this is the OM-3. I've had this camera for 2 months now. It's been a while, so I've been loving this camera. The video is a lot cleaner on this camera, but also it's a stacked sensor, so it does better in low light. Just been having a good time with it. Right now I have the 14 to 42 lens on there. If I turn it on, you can see that extends. Yeah. I also have my lens protection. I just keep it on there because I get too lazy with my lens caps. So I just throw it in my bag like that. And also I have a screen protector on the back of the camera. That's why you see some of these bubbles. Let's start with this side of the camera. This first slot is where you would put your mic into. So this is your mic port. If you want to do any external audio, you'll just feed it into here. Below is your headphone jack. That's how you monitor your audio quality. Just plug your headphones there. And then you have I think this one's the micro, HDMI, and USB-C. The USB-C cord is how you transfer your photos and charge the camera. On the top left of the camera, you have your viewfinder, or it kind of like changes your modes of switching from between your screen or the viewfinder. You also have this dial that changes from photo mode to video mode to S and Q. Right next to that, you have your on and off button. This little marking right here, hard to see, but that indicates where your sensor is actually positioned inside the camera body. Very interesting. You have your hot shoe, so you can put your mic here, you can put a flash. Anything that works with OM systems will go right here. This is your viewfinder, and this knob to the side right here is how you change this viewfinder to be your prescription. So basically, you'll take off your glasses or put your eye up to this cup, and then you'll look at these numbers on the bottom row, and then turn this knob until it gets to be your prescription. Very handy thing to have. It's just right here onto the side. Now to the right side, we have this dial right here, which controls your different modes. So you have program, to where you tell the camera, hey, I want things to be darker, I want to be lighter. It'll change the shutter speed, aperture, and ISO for you. Make sure your ISO is set to auto in this mode, so that way all you have to do is turn a knob and basically brightens the image or darkens the image. The next mode we have is aperture priority, to where I'm controlling the aperture, or basically what's in focus. This is what you'll use if you're taking photos of people, or whenever you want to control your aperture. Say I want to have my camera on a tripod and take a photo of a mountain or something, or a valley. I can set my aperture to f8, which is usually what you use for landscapes. Yeah, that's how you set that. Next you have shutter priority. You'll be in this mode when you want to control your shutter speed, or the first number. So say I'm shooting a basketball game, I'm going to jack this all the way up to like 1,000 or 1,600, 1,200. Say I'm doing low light situations, I'm going to crank it all the way down to 30. I'm basically controlling this first number. There's also exposure compensation that I can control in this mode. So I can still tell it, hey, I want my ISO to be brighter, or I want it to be darker. And it'll kind of like use these to program to how I want the scene to look. Next you'll have your manual mode, to where you're basically controlling your shutter speed, aperture, and ISO. Make sure this ISO on this mode is set to manual. So now I have full control. This front one I have controlling my shutter speed, this one I have controlling my aperture, and then for my ISO I click this button right here and I can change my ISO up and down. All these buttons are configurable, like this one, and this button right here. Also this toggle switch right here is configurable. So yep, that's how I have it. Next is bulb mode. Then you have custom 1, custom 2, custom 3, custom 4, custom 5. Why would I use customs? Maybe I want one to be settings for real estate. And then yeah, they're basically all custom modes, so you can customize them to whatever you like. This next button is how you take your photos. You'll half press, a light half press to focus. Actually, let me change these settings so that way you can see what I'm doing. You'll half press this button to focus. It'll turn green, or it'll make a beep sound. Full press to take the photo. Oh wait, I'm in movie mode. Let me switch it over to photo mode. So you half press till everything turns green, or whatever is in the box turns green, or you hear a beep sound, full press to take the photo. You also have a dial to turn. So right now I have this controlling my aperture. This one in the back doesn't have a button, but it turns, and what you can do with that one is control your shutter speed. This button right here is your record button. That's how you basically take a video. It'll switch over to video mode, and then you can start doing your videos. Very handy in a pinch. Up here you have a dial. This can be customized as well. I think I had this to where it's autofocus and then switches to manual focus. So that's just what I have this dial do. Or I guess it's called a switch. I guess you can call it a switch. Then we have the CP button. That's the computational photography. Hopefully I'm saying that right. But basically you can hold this button down and then you can switch between the different cool modes that this camera can do. So you have graduated ND, then you have HDR, high-res handheld, and high-res tripod, and then you can also just turn those off. You have your ND as well for waterfalls. This button right here does your autofocus. So this is back button focusing. You'll hold it down and then basically it will do what the half press does with this button, and you'll do your focusing that way. So that way you can kind of like focus with this button, take photos with this button. You don't have to worry about doing both with one button. Right now I have this set to my ISO just because I found myself not using that. This one's your menu. This is your info button. So info will show you the different displays you have set up. This is all configurable as well. Then you have your, you know what, I don't know what to call this. Basically your game controller. I use to move around my focus point. You can also use this dial to change your focus point type. So this is expanding spot. I like that. It's the middle. This is all. You also can do like a rectangle. So say you have a bird that's moving around in this space. It'll focus in this space on the bird. Very handy to have. Your OK button right here brings out this menu. So on top, actually we'll go through this later after we're all done. You also have your trash, and then you have your playback. You can see what you've taken a photo of. On the very right side, you have your SD card slot. You are going to just slide it this way, and you'll be able to release it, press down the SD card. This camera performs best with a V60 card, which is the mid-level speed for SD cards. Focus, man, focus. There we go. So V60. There's V30, V60, V90. This one is a very fast camera, so V60, V90 is going to be perfect for this camera. On the bottom, also I forgot to mention, this is a grip that I put on there, so it's easier to hold. But on the bottom is your battery. Let's see what battery it takes. This one's going to take the BLX-1 battery. This battery lasts forever. It's a really nice battery. So you should be able to have a good photo session with just one battery. But two is also always great to have. In the front of the camera, you have the logo, the OM-3 logo, you got the OM Systems logo, you have your tele lamp, I believe that's what it's called. It basically helps out with focusing. Right here is how you take the lens off. Make sure your camera's off, and then you should be safe to take your lens away. You'll line up the red dot to this red dot to put the lens back on. You'll hear a click when it's on there, and then you're able to turn it on and get going. Also, you have your, basically, this is a cool feature on the OM-3. It's your mode dial. So let's explore what these modes are. The first one I'm going to go over is the CRT mode. So, if I wake my camera back up. Okay, so with CRT mode, you can control your color. I think it stands for color creator. I haven't used this mode too much, but it could be an interesting mode. You can control your hues, your saturation. Next, you have your art mode that has just different looks you can upload. Right now I have watercolor. You can turn these modes on, you can take them off. Then you have your standard, which is the one in the middle. What this one is basically you have eye enhance, which I really enjoy. So you have natural. You also have muted, monochrome, custom, underwater. I usually keep it on natural on this camera. On my OM-5, I like to have it on eye enhance. Then you have the cool one, which is kind of like the the looks you can upload to your camera. OM Systems has on their page, their Instagram page, they have some recipes that you can download or actually mimic onto your camera. Right now I have 4 different modes. So this is the main seller for the OM-3 for street photographers. You can have a look for golden hour, you can have a look for blue hour, you can have a look for nighttime or daytime. Very cool. Next you have your monochrome mode, and I argue this is equally cool because I feel like OM System has a really nice monochrome or black and white picture styles on them. It comes out as JPEGs, but they are very nice, very nice. I've enjoyed the monochrome mode quite a bit. All right, so now we're going to take a look at the outside menu. You'll press OK, and then this menu will pop up. The very first section right here will be what mode you are in. Right now I'm showing you manual mode. Right here you have your shutter speed. Next you have your aperture, and then you have your ISO. You can change these on this menu as well. Then you have your focusing mode. So right now I'm on like the cross, so it kind of expands by putting in a general area. I use this all the time when I want stuff to be focused, but if they move off the area, it'll still track them, which I like. But you also can do single spots, so if you can be very direct on what you want it to be focused on. Then you have small, cross, which I use, middle, and then you have a customizable one in the menu to where, hey, I have a bird maybe that's moving around this general area and I want it to be autofocusing in this section. I can set it to be this shape, and then you have whole area or all. Next you have your exposure level meter, and then you can kind of change your highlights and shadows here as well. You have your Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Once you download the app to your phone, you can send your photos from your camera to your phone seamlessly. It's pretty awesome. After that, you have your profiles you're shooting in. These will change if you have it in a different, over here, if you have it in a different mode, those options will change. Next, you have your white balance modes. So you have auto, and I usually keep the warm colors on. So that way, if I shoot in a warm environment, it will still retain the colors. You also have just different modes based on what you're doing. Your manual modes. Pretty cool. So we're gonna go over here to your focus mode. So this is single autofocus, meaning if I focus over here and move, it's always focused on that point that I first did until I half press that button again, and then it will change the point of focus. Continuous focus will kind of like always continuous focus. So if I'm pointing at a subject, it will follow it around as I hold the button, half press the button. So I usually keep on continuous focus. You also have manual focus and then preset manual focus. I don't really know what this mode does yet. Yeah, subject detection on the OM-3. This is a pretty advanced system on this camera. So you have humans, you have motorsports, airplanes, trains, birds, and then cats and dogs. I think for general animals, you can keep it on cats and dogs and it'll pick up the face. This is where you'll go to select what subject matter you are taking a photo of. All right, then you have your flash mode. So if you have a flash attached to your camera, this will light up and be available to you. You have the flash exposure compensation. You have your drive mode. So this is single photo, bam. Next, you have silent single. So if we do that, it's quiet. It uses the electronic shutter. Then you have sequential, and then you have silent sequential. Then you have high speed mode, and these are crazy fast. You're doing 120 frames per second. So if I hold this down, I'm gonna have to delete all these photos, but it's just, all those were just photos. So if you go back to your playback, look at, I'm clicking and these are all just photos on here. So a very powerful mode if you do wildlife photography. Alrighty, what we got next? Let's see. We have the meter. So you can do center weighted, spot highlight, spot highlight. And then you have spot shadow. I usually just keep it on ESP. Then you have your aspect ratios. 4:3 is the biggest aspect ratio. You can do 16:9 photos, 3:2, or 1:1. And then you have 3:4. 4:3 is what I choose. Then we go one over and you have your stabilization modes. I usually keep on auto, but then you can have the first option, the second option, and then the third option. So basically this will account for horizontal shake. This one accounts for vertical shake. And then this is all direction. I just usually keep on auto and it does a really great job. You have your different file formats, or basically JPEGs and RAW settings. You can do this here, but I will show you how you can do it in the menu. And then you have your video mode. So if you're in photo mode and you click the video button, this is how you can tell what type of video is going to be shot if you click that button. But next, let's go into the menu. Let's go back to autofocus. Boy, let's see. Okay, to go to the menu, pretty simple. You just click this menu button right here, bam. And now we are in the menu. Let's start off on the first page. Okay, so the first option is custom mode. These are where you can do custom settings. Next, you have your image quality right below. This is a very, very important setting. When you first get your camera, make sure you get this correct, or your photos are gonna come out low res, or it's gonna be, the file size is gonna be bigger than you need them to be. This is a very important setting to focus on. For the first option, you have RAW only. Then you have medium, a JPEG, super fine. You also have large, fine, large, I think it's called natural or normal. Then you have medium, JPEG, fine. Then you have the ability to combine JPEGs and RAWs. So RAW, let me let you know what RAW is. RAW is basically the camera giving you a file that has the most information. So if you like to edit your photos, you shoot RAW, so that way you have a lot of information to play around with. Like you can push colors, you can bring back highlights, you can bring up shadows, you can do whatever you need to do. JPEGs will be mainly if you just want to take your photo, say you're shooting one of the color profiles, you can take your photo, send it to your phone, and you'll be good. I usually shoot JPEG and RAW. I shoot large, fine JPEG, and then my RAW file. Okay, next is detail settings. This is where you can customize the different options you have. You can do a middle, super fine JPEG. You can do a large or fine JPEG. Super fine is gonna be basically the best quality JPEG you can get out of the size you're shooting. So you can do large, fine, large, normal, or maybe you wanna do large, super fine, or you can do medium, super fine. So you can just customize based on what you're doing. You have your aspect ratios on here. Image review. I had this off, but you can turn it on. What image review will do is basically if you take a photo, it'll show you a preview of the photo before you go back into shooting. So I take a photo, shows me that preview, and it goes away. You can change the time that it stays around, but I usually have it off because I can do that on my own time. You have your picture mode, so that's basically the different color profiles you can put on. And then maybe you want to only have a certain picture modes on there. You can go in here and select which ones you actually use, and that way you're not scrolling through all of these when you want to change them out. You have your white balance settings, all, keep warm on, color space. You have your ISO limits, so that way you can tell it, hey, I don't want things to go over 64,000 because things get way too noisy for me. Or I want things to start at like 500 ISO and go from there. So you can kind of control the auto ISO limits. Then you have your noise filters and noise reduction settings. So these can be customized based on how much noise you're okay with. If you're doing any editing on your photos, maybe you want them to be not as noisy, or maybe you want them noisy and then you'll clean it up in post, but maybe you're just taking the photo and sending them to your phone, then you'll probably want some noise canceling or noise reduction. So maybe you'll put this on all the time. It depends on you. Then you have your exposure settings, metering modes, flash settings, drive modes, your stabilization settings. Then you have your computational photography modes. So you have high res shot. This camera does 50 megapixels handheld, 80 megapixels on a tripod. You can have your different settings. So maybe you want your waiting time to go up, charge time, and then it shows you some more information about the files you're going to be getting out. You have your live ND shooting, so this is how you get the smooth water ripples on this camera, handheld. You don't have to be on a tripod or have an ND filter. This is a very special characteristic about this camera that not I don't think any other cameras do. You have your graduated ND, which is pretty awesome to bring back information from the sky. So maybe I want it to be, I'm gonna put on the strongest settings so you can see what's happening. So with this, the top of my frame is dark and the bottom is exposed correctly. So maybe I'm outside, I'm shooting the Chicago landscape and it's a bright sunny day. I can make sure that none of my skies are clipping, overly exposed, and still retain a lot of the detail of the city down below. You can adjust it, you can tilt it, you can do whatever you want with it. It's pretty cool. This is also another very special thing about this camera. You have your HDR. I turned that off. I hate HDR, but maybe I don't know how to use it. So HDR off for sure. Multiple exposures, digital teleconverter. So now you can do a crop into your photos. So this is with it on. Uh-oh, took too many photos. And then if I turn it off, this is off. So if we look at before, this is with it on, this is with it off, crops in. You'll lose a little bit of image quality, but it may be a handy thing to have, especially if you don't want to crop in post. So pretty cool. You can also have that be a quick button, so maybe you can have it programmed as your CP mode. You click it, it'll go into teleconvert mode for you. You have interval shooting, keystone comp. You have your bracketing. This is where if you do a focus bracketing or anything like that, this is where your menu system will be. So under AF, you'll have your focus settings. So you have your focus mode right now. We're in continuous autofocus. You have starry sky autofocus settings. Pretty cool. Subject detection is also here. You also can go in here and change it to be different for photo and video. Eye detection framing. It'll show you what part of the face it's focusing on. Then you have the autofocus illuminator. You can have that on. I find it to be distracting. Next, on page 4, you have your autofocus sensitivity. You can make it high, you can make it low. I have it on +1. Then you have center priority, your limiter, and these are just more focus settings that are pretty cool to go through and customize. For video, I have it different from my photo settings because in video, I like it to be a smooth autofocus. I don't want things to be jittering everywhere, so I have -1 on there. And then my sensitivity I have just on 0. Oh, bam. Keep that on 0. And then you have more autofocus settings on page 6. And then on page 7, your manual focus settings will be here. For manual focus assist, you can have your magnify on. So if I switch over to manual mode or manual focus, when I'm focusing, it'll crop in on the image so it'll help me see if what I'm aiming for is in focus or not. So it just magnifies the image to where, let me see if I can show you guys. So if I want to focus on this, it'll crop in and show me what's in focus. So it's pretty cool. I just have it on because it makes it easier for me to focus. So the peaking settings will basically draw a border on whatever's on focus. So maybe you can make it red and it'll show you the border of your focus target with red. Stuff like that. It's pretty cool. As you turn the focus ring, it'll show you what it's focusing on. So once that text turns red, I know that this is in focus. And as I turn, I can move that plane. And it helps out a lot if you like to do a lot of manual focus. Pretty cool option a lot of cameras have. And now on peaking settings, you can change the color from red to black, white, and yellow. Red's the easiest for me to see. And then you can change the intensity. Pretty cool. And then we have some more settings below. Next, you have the video settings. I find most of my time in here. I have it to where all these settings are separate from photo and video. I've selected aperture, shutter speed, ISO, exposure compensation, white balance, autofocus. All of that is separated from photo. So that way when I'm switching back and forth, I can keep the settings I have on one without affecting the other. Next, you have the video codec. For the best video that you can get out of this camera, you have to shoot an H.265. H.264 is a little less sharp. It looks a lot more dated versus H.265 is sharp, clean, but you have to know how to color grade because straight off camera it's going to look very flat, greenish, and yeah, it's good if you're doing like client work or say I'm shooting a wedding, I want to be shooting at H.265 so that way I can color grade it to look very, very nice. With H.264, you won't be able to get that flexibility, and in my opinion, it won't look as clean. So I keep my H.265 and I choose to do my editing. Then you have your different frames per second you can shoot at. So you can shoot 24 frames per second, you shoot 30 frames per second, 50, or you can even shoot 60 frames per second. And these are all customized modes that I did. And yeah, the 4K on this camera when you're shooting H.265 looks really great. You can do Cinema 4K as well. Gives you a little bit more of a wider aspect ratio, so it looks pretty cool. I usually shoot it 4K. And if you don't want to shoot 4K, you can also do HD, which would be your 1080p. I wish this camera had 2K. Having 2K would be awesome. So that'd be the good middle. So say I'm just doing personal videos, I'll be able to shoot at 2K and still get a really good picture. Versus I feel like 1080p right now is starting to get outdated. I'm saying I want either 2K or 4K. 4K is great, 2K is great as well for personal work and personal videos. And it's also not a super huge file size. Then you have AI. I don't know what this is. Don't know what this stands for. This is actually my first time shooting with it. I just usually shoot LGLOP. I don't know how to pronounce that. You also can change your frames per second HD mode as well. But yeah, pretty cool. Turn this back to 40, 50 frames per second. These will also show up on the outside menu when you say if I flip over to video mode, my different settings will be right here. So I have 4K 20 frames per second, I have 4K 30 frames per second, I also have 4K 50 frames per second just in case I want to do slow motion stuff for 24 frames per second. So pretty cool. SQ settings, I haven't messed too much with SQ settings, but you can do some very slow motion stuff. They're pretty cool. Maybe I'll play around with this in the future. All right guys, so I ended up playing around with the SQ settings and it's actually really cool. So right underneath image quality and basic settings, there's the SQ, different settings you can do. It's a little complicated to understand at first, but I'm gonna try to go through it to how I understood it. But first you have your kind of like your 4K, your Cinema 4K, then you have your HD. That's how big your video is going to be. You can change your frames per second, right? So here's your frames per second. For example, for movies are usually shot around 24 frames per second. YouTube videos are generally 30 frames per second, which this is how this video is right now. And then usually use 60 frames per second to use it as slow motion, or if you want a very, very smooth video, because it's giving you more information per second. So you're seeing more, it doesn't look as realistic. And then you have your frames per second for your frame rate. So all you need to know is when you're looking at this number down here, it shows you the speed of the video, how it's going to come out. So if I'm shooting 4K, 30 frames per second, say I'm shooting a slow motion shot for this video, I can go over here to my frame, I guess it's frames per second, or the last menu, and this number down here is going to change as I'm flipping through. So if I want to do slow motion, I'm going to be shooting at 60 frames per second. So I'm going to select 60 frames per second, or the last number here, and that means I'm going to slow it down by 0.5 times. So it's going to be a very slow motion video. If I want things to speed up, I'm going to speed it up to 1 frame per second. So it's 30 times speed now. So with this, I can set it on a tripod, and every second it's going to take 1 frame. Bam, bam, bam. So if you can think like if you're camping and you want to get those shots of the sky, kind of like the stars in the sky moving and all that, you can set it to this 1 frame per second or even more, and it will take photos every second based on what you tell it to be. So for time lapses, you're going to want to be at a lower number, and then for slow motion, you want to be at a higher number. If you want very super slow motion shots, you can go to HD, and like I said again, can we get 2K on every single camera, please? And then you can do 120 frames per second. So you're slowing it down by 0.2 times, 2.5 times. So this is very crazy slow motion. I'm gonna put some of that test footage right here. So very cool. If I were to switch back to 4K and do the slowest mode 4K can do, I would be at 60 frames per second, and this is what that footage looks like. So a very interesting mode for sure. And I will be playing with this in the future. I think that would be a very handy mode if I'm doing like B-roll shots. So may look into that. Never have in the past. But OM systems, if we can get 2K and the newer cameras, that'd be great. So I feel like 1080p at this day and age is starting to look kind of crunchy. All cameras actually. I'm talking to every camera manufacturer. Let's get rid of 1080p. Let's keep it 1080p, but also have a 2K option and then a 4K option. Open gate for everybody. Everybody shoots open gate. Just open gate in general. You also have your flicker scan. I think that's for like when you get banding. Say I'm shooting with lights that are giving me banding. This will scan for that, I believe. Don't take my word for that one. You have your teleconverter, but digital teleconverter, and your video mode now. So if you need to do any cropping into something, say I'm filming a bee, but I don't want to get too close to the bee, I can be in my digital teleconverter mode and still be able to get the framing that I'm wanting. You have your picture mode. When you're shooting H.265, you only can shoot in their log profile. So this is the very flat profile, or the HLG. I actually haven't played around with HLG that much. If I switch this back to H.264, that will unlock all the different color profiles. You can shoot in the same as your photo. So I'm shooting a natural color profile on my photo mode, so it'll show up that way when I'm in this video mode. So all my colors will be the same as if I were taking a photo. So pretty nice. Also, I found with this camera, if you want to get really great images and great dynamic range, shoot a stop down, because with micro four thirds you get less dynamic range. So if you blow out your highlights, good luck recovering them. So if you retain your highlights, you can always bring stuff up. And also, you usually want to shoot your shutter speed double your frames per second. So if I'm shooting in, say I'm shooting in, let's change this to 24 frames per second, I want my shutter speed to be 50. But on this camera, I like the way it looks when I go to either I do double and I do 1 or 2 shutter speeds higher. And I feel like that's been giving me the cleanest footage. So if I'm shooting 24 frames per second, I'll be shooting maybe 60 for my shutter speed or 80. So that's just something interesting I noticed when I was editing the footage. You want to underexpose to get the best image, in my opinion, for this camera. Then you have your white balance settings for your video. I usually have keep warm colors on. Then you have your different ISO settings. On this camera, the base ISO when you're shooting on the low profile is going to be 400. So I like to keep it around 400 for my ISO, or things will get too noisy for me. I keep the noise filter on standard. Image stabilization. On this camera, a lot of their lenses do not have stabilization. So what happens when you're shooting on IS2 is that you get a lot of warping on the corners. So if I have stabilization on this camera and I don't have a stabilized lens, I'll see a lot of wobbling on the corners. It kind of looks like a jello image. I personally hate that with a passion. So I usually shoot with on IS1 where it crops in and gets rid of the jello, or I'll shoot with it off on a tripod. And then if I have a stabilized lens, I will put it on, and then I'll be able to shoot on IS2, and it gets rid of basically all of the wobbling that I'm seeing. So usually have it on 1 if I don't have a stabilized lens. It crops in, but I'd rather have the crop than the wiggles. You also can change the different levels, so you can have it to where it's low or high. I keep it on low. Your sound recording settings are here. So if you want to make sure things are not peaking, you come in here and then you will basically adjust for it. So if things are too loud, you can do -1, -3. And then you can change your headphone volume. So if you're monitoring it through your headphone jack, so this one right here, you can bring up the volume or turn down the volume. This top port is your mic port. Make sure your mic is plugged into the top one and your audio will go through to your footage. Next, I have my center marker on. So that's just the cross in the middle, showing me where the center is at. Very helpful when I'm trying to line things up. You have your zebra settings. Then, this is very important, red frame during recording. Have that on, so that way when you hit the record button, you'll know it's recording because this red frame will go around your screen. And then also another thing to help me out, I have the record lamp on. So if I hit record, you'll see that this little lamp turns on, lets me know from the front that it's recording. Helps me out a lot. So yeah, this camera does really great video, especially if you know what you're doing. Next, you have your playback settings, all the infos and stuff like that you can mess around with when you hit this playback button. Goes into a bunch of stuff you can change or whatnot. So, that's me. All right, so next we have your operations, or what I like to call settings. You have your button settings to where you can change these buttons to be different things. So, for example, I have this button doing computational photography when I'm in photo mode. So the record button just doing record. Then I have it to where the CP button is doing my autofocus, so back button focus. If I'm shooting a bird, then I'll click this to focus, this one to take the photo. And then I have this button doing my ISO. So I switched these two basically. And yeah, these are totally configurable. You can basically change them to be whatever you want, which is nice. So video mode, I have this one to activate my zebras, the top button right here. And I configured it to how I shoot. You have your dial settings, then you have your function lever settings, and then electronic zoom settings. Oh, what's this? Interesting. Then we have operations, live view mode, your EVF you can change. This is all the information you'll see when you look into your viewfinder. And then you also have your different info settings. So when you click this button, you have your different displays basically. And I have it to where it shows me everything that I need on the screen. So I get everything that I want to see. You have your gauge. Your gauge just shows you how level things are. When it turns green, that's how you know things are level. So a very handy thing to have on. And then on page 5, you have your grid settings. I have the rule of thirds grid on right now. And those are just the bars you'll see faintly. You can't really see it on this screen, but there's faint bars showing me the rule of thirds. Helps me out when I'm framing stuff. So I usually have that on for video and photo mode. Then you have your video grid settings you can have on. This one's how you format your card on the wrench. Battery status, backlit. So I have this on hold because I think without this setting turned on, this screen will dim and go up, and I don't like that. So I have it on hold to keep it how I want to. Then I have it going to sleep at 1 minute and then auto powering off at 30 minutes. So if I'm not messing with my camera for 30 minutes, it will turn off fully. But then if I'm not messing with any of the buttons, it'll go to sleep at around 1 minute. Then you can reset your settings if you mess any settings up. You want to start from scratch. This is how you do your firmware stuff. And then you have your settings. I have menu 1 as my photo quick menu, and then menu 2 as my video quick menu. And yeah, that's pretty much the menu. I haven't fully used every single thing on the menu, but I've made it to where this camera fits the way I shoot. And I'm having a great time with this camera, indeed. So yeah, guys, that was the OM-3. Hopefully I did a good job covering the camera. If you have any questions, leave them down below. I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks for watching. Have a good day today, tomorrow, and yesterday.